He worked initially alone and then with Bill Neves and others to make sure that the graduate school was a good one, that we could recruit good students and have interesting interdepartmental programs. Immunology was one of the first of these. But I would have to say that the thing that was most near and dear to my heart, and as you might have guessed by the fact that I'm the second one standing here with 2 X chromosomes, was his investment in making this a family-friendly institution, where female scientists would be fully supported at every level. In 1994, he created WISMAC to support and promote the recruitment and retention of women at UT Southwestern, and I was honored to serve as its chair for 10 years. And I can tell you I learned a lot in those 10 years. Under Kern's administration, a world-class child care center was built on the campus. And just to tell you what the first discussion about the child care center was like, I found myself in Kern's 12th floor conference room with a 100-and-something page proposal in my hand for why we needed to build a child care center here on campus. And Kern looked at me and took the report and said, "I'll put it in the pile." And I said, "I think you should put it in the ground." And he said, "What is it, Ellen, you're willing to give up in order to have this child care center built?" A phrase we've all learned to recognize, and to which there is no response that you can give that it will be a win-win situation. So I said nothing to that and thought for a minute, and I said, "Well, how do we get this to the top of the pile?" And he said something which has stayed with me ever since, and that is, you build consensus. And that sentence has allowed me to do many of the things in my own center that I couldn't have done otherwise. I never appreciated the importance of that, but I learned that from Kern. To call Kern a leader is an understatement. We all know that. We've heard words such as awesome, magnificent, fantastic, unrivaled. But in the end, I think that there are some personal aspects, quite apart from the humor that we've heard, that I would like to mention in closing my remarks. First of all, Kern, I know that you care. And I think caring is important, and that our success as an institution has defined you. And because of that, it has made it clear to all of us that if you can care this much, we should too. We all know that you have an incredibly solid work ethic, and that you work hard, or harder than most of us in this room and on this campus. We know that you listen and you weigh all the pros and cons of our numerous requests of you, but that then you prioritize based on what is best for UT Southwestern. This is a very difficult thing to do. It takes incredible judgment, and at the end of the day, you know that you can't satisfy everybody, and that you have to make decisions that are for the good of the institution and maybe not for the individual or the program. As I said, he knows how to build consensus, and he conveyed this to me, and I think this is something that all of us need to learn. Importantly, and perhaps not often realized, is that once Kern has made a decision and set something into motion, he follows through. And we all know that there are many people with good ideas and who start things but drop them somewhere along the way. Kern, you never do that. And we always know that at the end of it, there'll be a marching band or a party paid for by you, of course, and that it will be finished, and it will be finished right. And I really admire and respect that. I think that all the researchers here at UT Southwestern will miss you, even though the legacy of your many accomplishments will surround us for years to come. And Dan, I would say to you, that you have a hard act to follow. I'm sure you realize that. But at the same time, you'll have the solid bedrock of Kern's 22 years to build upon. And that bedrock is magnificent. On behalf of the faculty, I would like to offer Kern my sincere thanks for all you've done for this institution. and for all of us who have worked here. We're all better researchers, people, and teachers because of you. Thank you.
The rest of our story starts simply enough in the early 1960s when a talented young man from South Carolina came here to medical school. Don Selden recognized that talent and convinced that young man to give up his notions of becoming a neurosurgeon and to go into genetics. We'll never know whether Dr. Selden did that out of his love of genetics or his respect for neurosurgery. The rest is history, and little further introduction is needed. If you go almost anywhere in the scientific world and refer to Joe and Mike or Mike and Joe, people know you're talking about Brown and Goldstein and UT Southwestern. Between themselves and the people they've trained and the people they've recruited, their influence on research at UT Southwestern has been huge. When my own work was going reasonably well in the late 1970s at the University of Virginia, I learned the philosophy in Charlottesville, which was if they do well, they will leave, and there's nothing much we can do about it. At Dallas, the attitude was a little different. An enlightened administration's refusal to let these two get away when Harvard, Stanford, UCSF, and others came knocking at the door secured the future of this medical school. Mike and Joe.
Well, thank you, Al. Well, this afternoon has been filled with dazzling recollections of Kern's accomplishments during his presidency at UT Southwestern, and by now you're all thoroughly dazzled. So instead of dazzling you more, Mike and I decided to pay tribute to Kern in a different way. So Kern is a connoisseur of the arts. He serves on the boards of every major art organization with Dallas in his name: the Dallas Opera, the Dallas Museum of Art, the Dallas Symphony, and the Dallas Center for the Performing Arts. So we decided to craft our tribute with items selected from the world of art. Now, how can a single individual control an organization as complex as UT Southwestern? And the answer is shown on the first slide. Kern has a hand in everything and a finger in every pie. Fortunately, he has enough hands, enough fingers, and enough pies. And this likeness was created by René Magritte, the Belgian surrealist. Now, it shows how Kern accomplished so much physically, but how did he do it intellectually? Here is the answer: clairvoyance. So the artist looks at an egg and envisions the great eagle that it will become. Kern's eagles are all around us. Kern looked at young scientists and envisioned the success they would achieve if he could recruit them to UT Southwestern. Kern looked at a barren block of land on Harry Hines Boulevard and envisioned the research campus that he could build there. He looked at the Dallas community and realized that they would pay for those buildings if he earned their trust. Clairvoyance is Kern's American Express card. He won't leave home without it. Now, how did Kern get clairvoyance? How did he get to be both a sophisticated Texan and an unabashed Anglophile? Looking at him now, who would guess that Kern grew up in a tiny town of 5,000 on the plains of West Texas? He matured extremely early. By age 2, his precocity was already apparent. By age 5, he was doing complicated mathematics in his head. By age 10, he had become a speed typist. And by age 22, he had already graduated from high school, college, and medical school. To round out these intellectual achievements, Kern became a skillful saxophonist and a formidable tennis player. His ferocity on the tennis court prefigured his ferocity in academics. After graduating from medical school, Kern was trained in internal medicine and cardiology, and as you heard from Jerry Mitchell, earned a PhD in cell physiology at Cambridge University. By age 28, he had joined the UT Southwestern faculty. 10 years later, Kern's leadership ability was recognized by the powers that be, and he was named dean of the medical school at age 38. He charged full steam ahead, and Kern made the trains run on time. He had a remarkable nose for talent. His nose led him to the first two recruits as dean, Scott Grundy, who created a world-class nutrition center, and Al Gilman, who was in a class by himself. After a successful 6-year term as dean, the regents selected Kern to replace Charles Sprague as UT Southwestern's second president. And as you all know, Kern has a reserved personality, and many of our faculty had their own reservations, not about Kern's leadership ability, but about his ability to woo donors in Dallas and to bamboozle legislators in Austin. In the external world, would Kern be a fish out of water? And how would he handle himself in the smoke-filled rooms of the Capitol? As you all know, these fears were totally unjustified. Kern performed brilliantly in his new role. His two-pronged strategy worked magnificently. Kern left no stone unturned, and he found a silver lining behind every cloud. Kern's mode of governance was a unique blend of democracy and autocracy. He detested committees. When forced to form one, he appointed members who would always agree. And notice Ellen is not on that committee.